From my background, we are always seeking different collaborations here and in different places in the world. We are always looking for people to put their hands with our hands to be able to achieve much more, because it's not a one-man show.
If people here, family funds are meeting here, the thinking would be, the discussion is going to be how to make more money.
If you want to have an impact, the collaboration among these entities, but not all this, it's really one of the key of success. And I guess that when we look with this lens, we are not looking very differently than normal investments.
We should also look at, social return on investment. We should really have positive outlook towards the social change that this initiative can change, and not just be looking, at profit.
And the collaboration with the family businesses, it is sometimes easier because we share the same values, we share the same opportunities and the challenges.
There's a lot of crossovers already between sports, business and philanthropy, especially nowadays with the social media. It's ever present, and family offices could be included. They could be driving this force.
As you see, we have a very interesting and very diverse group of people with us here on stage. And I would like to open the floor by asking, Your Highness, you spoke a lot about women empowerment, about a lot of important topics in the field of social impact. And you come from a family office as well. So being part of a family office, can you tell us about what is the role that family offices play in achieving important topics in social impact like women empowerment and so on?
Well, coming from a family office, actually, and being a woman, most importantly, if we were having this discussion, I would say maybe 20 years ago, the role is very, I would say, what's a diplomatic way to put it? Yes, it would be a little bit more controlled, let's say, or limited, yeah? And then evolving with the years and being able to see more and more different examples come out into the world from different families, I would say large families, who really have, as families, they have their impact, they have their power and influence on their communities. Now, coming from this family also, at the beginning, it was and I'm talking 10 years ago, not very long, but coming also from a family and being very young at a very young age, it was a little bit tricky to either be accepted or be denied that right. And someone like me would not take a no for an answer at all. So it took a little bit of persuasion, but to a point, I was really empowered by them. I was really supported by the family office, by our family, my family, to be able to go and make, to have a voice, to make a difference, to have an impact. And I believe it's really important, because with that support, I was able to achieve much more than I would be doing on my own. So I hope I answered your question.
Absolutely, absolutely you did. I'll move to you, Professor Rashika. So, can you tell us how can family offices measure and report on the impact and on the impact of their philanthropy that they do and the efforts effectively?
All right, thank you very much for this excellent question. for family businesses to invest in philanthropic projects, to invest in education, to invest in the education of underprivileged communities. This is something what can definitely be measured with the right frameworks in place. What we realized at the University of Dubai, in particular Dubai Business School, that this has to be elevated to strategic level. Our collaboration with our partners, with our family businesses here in Dubai, are more of strategic nature, because once you get the investment rolling, once you touch the lives of others, I would like to share with you, for example, the case of Afghani students coming from Afghanistan to Dubai when the government in Afghanistan banned girls from accessing higher education. We partnered up with this office of His Excellency Khalaf Al-Abtur and managed to get 100 girls to Dubai, and obviously they're going to stay here for a couple of years. So we put the right measures in place, and to us, impact means how can we influence the lives of these girls within their journey in the academia and even beyond. So overall, it's not just patching up, it's more about really being strategic, being very, very focused in what you're doing.
Absolutely. I would like to move to you, Mikel. You worked in the sports industry, and you also have worked in investment. So it's an interesting mix, if I may say. So can you tell us about how do you see the potential for family offices to engage in sports-related philanthropy, and what opportunities exist for aligning these efforts with, preservation of strategies?
Thank you for the question. It's very interesting. And I think this is the right time for family offices to follow the path of the major clubs, federation, organization. There is a lot of crossovers already between sports, business, and philanthropy, especially nowadays with the social media. It's ever present. We can see that on all the medias of these organizations. And family offices could be included. They could be driving this force. I believe there is a gap in the market. I know we're not talking business, but football, sports at the highest level is a show, is an entertainment. And I think there is an opportunity really to go for it, because there is, through the athletes and the organization, there is a lot of advocates. People are waiting for opportunities. And I think you guys have the meanings, the power, and the resources really to make a difference. So I think this is a good time, and Dubai, the Middle East, should be the driving force, because they are already showing the way in many different aspects, in technology, in education, in safety. I think for the philanthropy part, with the sports, especially football, because this is my background, I think there is a lot of opportunities.
Absolutely, and since we're discussing opportunities and being here as well, I'll move to Mr. Abdelrahman. Can you tell us about how can family offices tailor their social impact goals and efforts to align them with governments and NGOs to make sure that we have effective partnerships between the two sides?
Thank you very much, Leanne. Firstly, I would like to thank the Institute and the organizers for giving such a focus for social impact and philanthropy. From the outset, if people here, family funds are meeting here, the thinking would be, the discussion is going to be how to make more money. So I'm really thankful for the amount of focus that's given to this particular topic. So coming to your question, I think apart from each country or government having its own development plan, globally for the last 20-something years, there has been organized goals in terms of achieving social impact globally, initially as the Millennium Development Goals, but now as the Sustainable Development Goals. So we have SDGs. One of the things we learned during the implementation of the MDGs was the fact that governments and initial international organizations, in whatever form they are, the UN agencies, the level of effort they made was not enough to the required level in terms of the kind of social impact that was required, to happen at the time. And the second thing that we learned was also the unsustainability of the financial model, because nowadays you hear a lot of developing countries struggling with debt. It came from that era, trying to make certain level of development. And now, in this particular period, we have, in terms of the progress we have made globally, in terms of achieving the SDGs as goals, we are nowhere close to where we should have been, because we are at the mid stage. You have, the UN recently said in a report that more than 30% of the SDG goals have either stagnated or has regressed, from the baseline of 2015. So we even, the things are worse than they were. And there is around 4 trillion USD required to bridge the gap of financing the goals. So I think there is huge, one of the target areas is to unlock private capital, like family funds. So I think there is huge opportunity where family funds could come in and finance some of the impact, some of the projects required to have social impact. And in order to sustain, to make it more effective, is to align with the plans that governments of developing countries has. I think that will be the way to do those kind of investments. I understand it could be in either way, but aligning whatever we are trying to do with the plans that governments has would help sustain and make it more effective.
That's interesting, and thank you, Mr. Abdulrahman. I'll move to you, Dr. Celeste. So you come from a background in family offices, and at the same time now you're focused on ESG as well. So can you tell us, based on your expertise in both fields, can you tell us more about what kind of trends do you see in this topic?
So thank you very much, SWFI Institute of FORT, for having me here. I'm honored to be among such great panelists and inspiring women in leadership. Thank you very much. So I guess that I will come with a little different perspective. As you highlighted, I was Vice President Strategy for a large family office, and we were mainly focusing on philanthropy. Then we moved to corporate social responsibility, while nowadays, if you look at the trends, we are actually moving into impact investment. And I guess this shift is something very important, and I guess it's something that we're gonna see. And when we look at this shift, private family office has a very important mandate as government. Why? Because it's in their mandate, it's aligned with the family values to support this shift. And it goes for government, goes for family offices, and goes for survival funds. So if you want to have an impact, the collaboration among these entities, but not all this, it's really one of the key of success. And I guess that when we look with this lens, we are not looking very differently than normal investments. We need to collaborate together, we need to scout real opportunities, we need to measure impact, we need to be sure that we have the right impact. And maybe just an important word, because I think that we were talking about wealth preservation and social impact. I think that another shift we see is moving from wealth preservation to value creation. It's moving from negative KPI, I'm not polluting the environment, I'm not harming the future generation, into what I'm doing actually for the future generation. Which are my positive KPIs and how I can measure them. So I guess there's a really strong shift from philanthropy to impact investment, from wealth preservation to value creation, and to focusing on the current generation to future generation. And the last point I would like to make is that sometimes we underestimate social impact. And I guess that if you look at the evolution, talking about trends of ESG, we start from governance, and all the family offices are very advanced, specifically in the region. We saw an amazing progress in terms of family charter governance, and then everybody was looking at environment. But now I think it's the time to look at the social aspect, because if we try to tackle environmental issues without thinking at the social cost, so without thinking of just transition, there would be facing social issue, trying to tackle environmental issue. And I stop here.
Thank you. And since we're discussing impact, social impact, I think she's Arab. I'm moving to Ms. Tamar. You're the founder of She's Arab, which is also a prominent organization in the field of impact on society. So can you tell us about how can organizations like She's Impact contribute to collaborative efforts among family offices for impactful philanthropy and social impact?
Sure, thanks very much, and thank you for this intro. It's great to be here. I think I'm going to use this podium to actually put a call out with the presence of all these family offices and sovereign wealth funds and, you know, Her Highness and everyone in this room. I think it's time to start looking at this new emerging business model of social enterprises and really giving them a chance. As a social enterprise, She is Arab, it has not been an easy ride because obviously venture capitalists are not interested in investing in social enterprises. And on the other hand, philanthropists perhaps are focusing more on impact investments. But I think it's also equally important to focus on venture philanthropy, to focus on initiatives that drive social change and really create value, as Dr. Celeste rightly mentioned, drive the SDGs, as Dr. Abdurrahman mentioned, but at the same time are financially viable. They're not going to be relying on receiving annual grants from philanthropists or from investors even. They will be self-sustaining, and it's a model that is really worth looking into. It is definitely a nascent model. It's nascent in the region, I would say. It's more popular currently in Europe and in the West and so on, but we should really spend some time looking at it, investing in it. So I would put a call out for philanthropists to identify perhaps an issue that you're passionate about, something that really moves you and drives your purpose, aligns with your own values, and invest in it. Take a risk. For at the end of the day, what is philanthropic money, right? It is actually risk capital that you want to put, and you need to, you know, tread these waters in a different way, right? And there will only be real systemic change if we take such risks. You need to take a risk on someone like me, who would like to see a more, you know, equitable future and prosperous one, hopefully.
Thank you so much. And since we're discussing collaborative efforts, I'll move to you back, Professor Mashika. Can you tell us about how do these collaborative efforts among family offices contribute to making a more of a positive impact or positive difference in society?
Thank you very much. I would go back to the framework Her Highness was proposing earlier, it was COCS, right? So it is, Dubai is a land of opportunity. And what I like very much, you were talking about we imported education. Today, we are in a very privileged position where we can stand proud and say, you know, this is made in Dubai and exported globally. And this is in terms of education the case as well. We have a number of fantastic world-class institutions in the UAE, in Dubai, and the amount of attention we receive, in particular from family offices here in Dubai, are amazing. One example, for instance, COVID-19 taught us, you know, teaching and learning, lifelong learning has to happen in a different space with the use of emerging technologies and so on. And the Abdullah Al Ghurair Foundation, for example, supported 9 institutions with the Ministry of Education. So you have the government agency, you have family businesses coming with the funding, and educational institutions really working together in a consortium, building capacities in the UAE, in Dubai, to really serve the communities and the society and the nation. So there is a lot of power and privilege and advantage in those collaborations because, you know, we want to go far and we can only go as far as we can work with each other. And I believe this collaborative power, very much emphasized, very much supported by the leadership of this country, is something which really glue us together, and we can multiply our impact and the effects we have.
I like what you said, that we can only go far by working together. And since we're speaking about that, I'll go back to you, Your Highness. Can you tell us about how do you see family offices working together with the governments and the NGOs to make a positive impact on society?
Well, doctor here just answered your question.
But I want to hear it from a point of view of a family office, a person working in that field specifically.
So just by having a live, I would say, example here, I would like to add on that. In our communities, in our countries, in the GCC in general, when I speak, is that we really have the family offices, or these families, really have a big impact and influence on this, on these different societies and on their own societies and environment. So, what I want to say here is that not only the government has, the government always has a certain support, and they have a lot on their plate that they are already doing for the country, for the people. Now, as family offices, you must have you must have a proper role in contributing in what is being done to to influence the society. Now, to make it a bit more clear, when it comes to philanthropy or business or, as I said earlier, I believe that you can do both. You can really have a business with, but also being impactful and making a difference. And just by being able to help and being able to partner with the government or with different NGOs or with different organizations, then the impact is just much more bigger. And that's what we would like to achieve. At the end of the day, if you're trying to do philanthropy work, you want it to spread out. You want to help people as much as you could, everywhere in the world. So what I would like to really just emphasize on is that at the end of the day, when you're doing any philanthropy work, you want it to reach as much as possible to people. You want it to spread out and help as much as you can. You want to touch different lives in the world. And you cannot do it alone. As you just rightfully said, working together is how you can achieve. And from my background, we are always seeking different collaborations here and in different places in the world. We are always looking for people to put their hands with our hands to be able to achieve much more, because it's not a one-man show.
Absolutely, and I think Professor Rashid, you have a comment to make about this.
Thank you. Just and in addition of what Her Highness was saying, it is family business are embedded within the same communities as we are, for example. From my personal experiences at the University of Dubai and the collaboration with the family businesses, it is sometimes easier because we share the same values, we share the same opportunities and the challenges. And when you see that, your work, your action result in some real impactful outcome, this is something which is really visible, tangible, in front of you. And I think this makes it easier for us as well to work with each other within the same communities.
Absolutely, and we've been talking a little bit about the positive side, but I'll move to you, Dr. Celeste, to talk about, I want to ask about what are the common challenges that you are seeing these days in this field?
Thank you very much. Interesting question. If you allow me, I would just have a comment on what has been said. I think that the family office are in the unique position to be stewards, and they can really work horizontal but vertical as well, right? So they start collaborating with peers, with sovereign, and they can really engage from startups, so in the role of investors, I think that we assist to another shift. From disengagement, I'm not going to invest in this, in engaging. I'm going to invest and I'm going to help you actually to become more sustainable. Or even to highlight what you're already doing in a sustainable way without neither recognizing. So I guess this is a very important role that family office can play, being the stewards, and I guess that the future generation of family office, the second or third by now, have also this additional task. to really be the stewards of sustainability. So, of course, this happened with some challenges. So, looking at the challenges, I guess that we were discussing earlier about measuring. I guess there's a lot of greenwashing, and it goes from impact investment, sustainability, how we define our impact first. What is relevant for us? We always say to all our counterparts and partners, first of all, you need to start in asking yourself, what is relevant for you and what is relevant for your stakeholders? And when you identify this, and we look at social impact, that could be diversity, inclusion, it could be leadership, it could be human empowerment. And I guess if you look specifically of this country, where I think this morning Marwan Sarkar was saying 40% of the GDP is contributed by family office, I think that in-country value, localization, really investing in the future generation, thinking 75% of the Gulf population is under the age of 35. And His Excellency, the Minister of Energy of Saudi Arabia during COP28 said the new oil of the GCC is actually the new generation. And this is very strong. So which are the challenges we see? First of all, defining what does it mean for you philanthropy? Which are your values? What does it mean for you impact investing? So the first thing is defining. What is relevant for you? You do a materiality assessment, and what is relevant for your stakeholders? The second element is how you measure it. Do you have KPIs to measure it? Do you have policies? Do you have a strategy? I think we are talking about the family offices, specifically in the region, became very sophisticated. So now we don't only have governance structure, a very clear strategy, as we were mentioning earlier, but we have the need to measure for us and for our stakeholders. And when we were looking at this, how we measure this, in PwC, we developed a tool that allows to measure the level of ESG maturity and sustainability of your office, of your funds, of your operation, of your project, of your investments. Why? Because I guess that as long as you can measure, you can really demonstrate you are creating impact. And it doesn't matter if it's through a philanthropic initiative, if it's through a project. And what was very relevant, and I finish here, it was that everybody was measuring the investment. Everybody was, as a government, was measuring policies, law, regulation. And then we came and said, and what about walking the talk? Do you have sustainable vehicle, electric vehicle? Do you have a retrofit building? So are you walking the talk? And that was a new open eye, saying, well, I should not just support my investment or my companies, but actually I should be the first one asking, the building of my office is sustainable, and so on and so forth.
Thank you, Dr. Jaliste. And I'll end with a question. So today, we are here because we all believe in the importance of wealth funds and the impact that they have on all sectors of the economy. So, Mr. Abdulrahman, as a leader and a CEO of one of the largest wealth funds in the world, can you tell us about how can wealth funds support family offices to achieve their philanthropic goals and social impact goals?
Thank you. I think sovereign wealth funds like the one I am from, which is from a developing country, mostly what we focus on is on impact investment, given the development gap that the countries we are from is at. Definitely we have to do a lot of impact investing. Definitely we of course have a target of return as a business, as a business investment, but that's where the focus is. So the first thing that the sovereign wealth funds like ours could support family offices is to share experience in terms of the kind of impact investments could have, the social impact required, the areas that they could target as an impact investing area. So that could be the first area through which sovereign wealth funds can support family offices. I think secondly is in terms of sustainability. Family offices, apart from sharing part of their wealth for positive impact, what they share, what they have in common is they have huge entrepreneurial skills. So in terms of developing entrepreneurship in developing countries, that could be an area which could really unlock a lot of potential. You have a lot of youth who, if given the right opportunity, could come up with businesses, investments that could change lives in the area they are in. So that could also be the second area where sovereign wealth funds like ours could support family offices. But third, it has to do with creating co-investment platform for family offices. You know, wealth funds like ours is established to act as a co-investment platform for foreign investors. So that could include family funds, family offices. You know, in developing countries, even if the investment is not primarily targeted for having social impact, any investment in a developing country would have some level of social impact, either indirectly or directly. If you do any investment, it would either create opportunities, it would create market for either poor farmers or people who are involved in some sector in terms of creating that either vertical or horizontal integration. So doing any investment, doing co-investment with sovereign wealth fund in developing countries would definitely have that level of impact, would help the family office. At the same time, would make sure the required level of social impact would be created. So I think it will be in those lines.
Thank you, Mr. Abdurrahman. And I think, Samar, you have a comment to add about this, right?
Yes, just a follow-up, actually, very intrigued by what you shared, Dr. Abdurrahman, and want to say that we should not only be looking at numbers, we should also look at, social return on investment. We should really have positive outlook towards the social change that this initiative can change, and not just be looking, at profit. I understand that profit is a priority, but I mean, as philanthropists, sometimes you just give to charity, so rather than giving to charity, give to initiatives that will have a longer term impact, but also with a high social return on investment.
Absolutely. Thank you to our panelists for this interesting information that you shared with us. I just want to ask if any of the audience has any questions to our panelists. Please. Yes, please.
Thank you very much, and I'd like to thank the panel for a very encouraging session. Thank you. I guess really on that last point that was raised, my question, the essence of this session has been that you can deploy capital for philanthropic gain and also for good business sense. And my question is a simple one. Do you have substantiation of that? Because if you've got hard audited substantiation that funds can deploy capital and have a social impact and at the same time provide superior returns on that capital, that will influence capital deployment more than all the good words in the world. Anyone?
Yeah, I take it this. So I'm coming from a private family office sovereign fund background, so I take the first shot on that. And I will answer you in a financial way. So if you have a short-term return, you will not have it. But if you have a medium long-term horizon for your investment, you can make sustainability profitable. And it's been proved by different studies from the Ivy League University that just if you think, and I thank you very much for the question that I relate to what my colleague here said. And she said, why sometimes you give philanthropy and you don't expect a return? I'm challenging and saying that when you do philanthropy, you have already a return. So you need to factor in your investment the double and triple bottom line, the environmental, the social aspect in your return. And this is really my strong stand that you can be sustainable only if you are profitable. Because the moment you're profitable, you will be sustainable over the long time. And I will factor in that even doing philanthropy that doesn't have one of the three bottom line. You don't have a financial return, but you have a social return that on the long term will provide you. It will enhance your reputation, it will enhance your brand, and potentially even if it doesn't do anything of this, it's part of your core business, part of your values. So I'm a firm believer that you can do, as Your Excellency says earlier, you can do good while you're doing well. And I think when you can do well, you don't necessarily need to give back just in a philanthropic way, but you can be strategic and really change your allocation and the way you invest to have even more social return.
I think I just build on what Celeste said, and yes, when you give, for example, for charity, you don't have an expected return, but you're satisfied, right? But what we're suggesting here, I think, is a longer-term view, something more sustainable that lasts and becomes financially independent. And I can give you one example yes, there are many examples, by the way, that can substantiate that, whether it's the impact investment model or the venture philanthropy model. But I can give you a very simple example of an initiative that allows, for example, refugee women to make soap. They teach them how to make soap. I know the initiative is called City Social Enterprise. And this has ended up in, self-sustaining itself as an initiative. It provides for the women. They already have, a talent now, something that can bring them and put food on the table, bring them money and put food on the table, and it's become more sustainable. Yes, it's not going to make massive profits, but it is helping these women. It's helping that community, which we really need to look at. Social change will not happen with just one, single initiative. There has to be that power of collective impact, collective change, collective will to actually see a better future and have a more positive outlook for it. I don't know if anyone else would like to add.
Yeah, maybe one example from my world, the world of education. When we, for example, invest in technologies in our classrooms, in our curriculum, so we ensure that our graduates leave our programs, leave academia, join the employment market, join family businesses with the skills and competencies they need to excel in their own careers, to contribute to the bottom line of businesses as well. So there are multiple ways where you can substantiate, your investment in social or in societal-based projects, and then there is a financial return based on it as well. Getting our graduates ready for employment market could be one. Another project what we are working on at the University of Dubai with another family office is we are providing financial literacy to all. The previous panelist was talking about blue-collar workers. And, the project, we developed a curriculum to make sure that these blue-collar workers, and we have many of them here in the UAE and Dubai, that they know how to manage even the little money they have, and this little money can lead to financial incentives in the long run as well. There is definitely a return on investment, but it's a long one. It's a long way to go.
Thank you to our panelists. I think we have time for one more question. And I see a hand over there.
Thank you for the wonderful session. I just wanted your opinion and your thought about what Her Highness said before, that can every business be what we call as a conscious business? Like, a question which was asked earlier. There is a model from the country that I come from, the Tata Group. So the Tata Group 110 years back had 50% of their personal ownership for charity, yet they are a for-profit company. So can every company be a for-profit company, but from their personal ownership allocate giving back? Can every business be a conscious business? There is something called conscious capitalism. Would love to hear your views.
Should I take
Yeah, sure.
Actually, this is more or less the concept of a social business, because over the years, as it has evolved, they've come to realize that you cannot just do everything for profit when it comes to a social enterprise. So part of your returns are really reinvested in the business for the purpose of the social aspect or the impactful work that you're doing. So yes, I would say they very much align with what you just said about being a conscious business. And in fact, here in the UAE, they've started taking strides with regards to social businesses. There's an initiative in Abu Dhabi by the Abu Dhabi government called Ma'an, which is now actually providing companies with a social business certification. And part of it talks about investing 30 to 40% of the business's revenues back into the business. So that is proof that you are actually a socially driven business. So thank you for your question. I hope you have
I
answered.
think Your Highness have something to say.
Thank you. Answering your question from my point of view, it's simply a choice. It's a choice that you make whether what kind of business to choose to work in and how much of impact that business has on anyone. To me personally, having an impact on one person is satisfying enough that I can sleep at night happily. But I choose to impact more people. So it's a choice. You can do, there are so many business owners that they will conduct their business and every single penny will go back there into their pockets, yes? But there are other people who choose to give back. Sometimes, now speaking of other models, there's, yes, the part where you do charity, you build housing or you give money to different organizations, but there is another part where we are, my company and my partners, what we are doing right now is choosing the kind of businesses that has an impact on people's lives, that can change. So there are countries that I choose to work in or do some business in, where we are working with renewable energy, creating electricity, because it is known as the second highest electricity cost in Asia. And so I choose to go there to create a solar panel farm to be able to produce electricity. I am having an impact. I'm changing a life. Then water treatment, and so many others. It's a choice. Thank you.
Thank you. And actually, I saw a hand over there, I think, wanting to ask a question. If you could hand her the mic, please.
Thank you so much. This is not so much of a question, but more as an example, if that is okay.
Yeah, sure.
I feel like, we don't need to make a choice between doing business and doing something good. You can have a very traditional business model. For example, I'm one of the owners of a large tech consultancy from Sweden. And it's a very boring traditional business, but how we started this is we said, let's pick people that share this growth mindset and let's invest in them. So when we started the company, we started thinking about making sure that people grow, that they're taken care of, that they're paid well. And while we were doing that, these people excelled with their knowledge, so we could attract better clients. And today we work with IKEA, with Volvo, with Spotify, So I'm very much pro, let's not use all the resources that we can use, because we're using people, we are using natural resources. We can conduct business in a way that we are good to people at the same time. So we don't need to choose, we can do both. And we can be profitable, and we can be even more profitable if we make treatment of just people, priority in a right way. Just wanted to say that.
Thank you. I think Mr. Abdurrahman has a comment to say about this.
Yeah, not only with regard to, in terms of what companies are expected to give it back to communities as a social impact. We nowadays hear that companies who overly focus only on the maximization of financial returns go to face certain problems. I mean, financial returns alone cannot be the sole target. That whatever the organization is, even if you are purely for-profit company, you cannot overly focus on that. And traditionally, we used to have what companies give back to communities as corporate social responsibility. Nowadays, it's simply in more organized form. So you have companies organizing themselves, having creating some sort of foundations through which they make support to the communities. And also, it's not like it used to be in the past very much done locally for domestic purposes, but now you have contributions that go beyond borders. You have international foundations that companies have that invest in various parts of the world. They have offices, some of them in more than 100 countries. So I think that balance should, of course, be kept. But nowadays, it's difficult to have a company that's only focusing on maximizing its own return without giving back anything to the community.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you to our audience for listening to this panel, and to our amazing and very, very cool, diverse panelists. Thank you so much for all of the information provided. Thank you.